Hello and welcome to This Week in X, presented by Crushing Comics, where we talk about every X-Men issue out every week from Marvel Comics. This week and this issue is Wolverine number 10, out on the 24th of February, 2021. We're going to dig into all the details of this issue. We're probably going to talk about other things happening in the Marvel Universe. So this is a full spoilers program, and now we're going to get into it. For Wolverine number 10, let's start, as we always do, with our lightning round of initial reactions, beginning with Tyler.
I like it, but I did not love it. There's something I'm quite confused about regarding the plot. Even though this is a really decompressed issue, I just couldn't get behind certain, the motivation of some people. I like Kubert. That is not a surprise. And the splash, the splash pages were divine. And I give it a 2.75 live octopus out of 5.
Harry.
This issue is not annoying, which I think is a nice step up from the previous two, to be honest. I think this is a perfectly fine, acceptable issue where Wolverine hangs out with another one of his boys. It seems like Percy's really just all in on establishing kind of bromances between Wolverine and other characters. And this one works fine. I don't really know Maverick historically, but it made sense. It was pleasant. And the big draw for me was Kubert. Yeah, I think this issue looked amazing. Those splash pages were beautiful. I'm not going to swear, but it was a solid issue that wasn't irritating. And so as far as this book's concerned, that's a win. So I'm going to give it 2.5 bro feelings out of 5.
Fariha, what did you think of this issue?
It was fine. The thing is, I feel like there had to be one. We're going to get into it later that, it's traitor in Krakoa. And this is how it all starts. And then we're also seeing that we talked about it before, that Percy and Dugan working together, but the X-Text that started with Marauders, right, is now started to show up here. So there's a lot of synergy going on. I was a little enraged. I was seeing white because I was so enraged, for the first couple of pages where it's all white. I was seeing white. I'm am I just angry? Okay. What is going on? So that really annoyed me, but then the splash pages were kind of good. So yeah, bring it on. Why is this not part of X-Force? Why do we have a separate title? Questions need to be asked. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, I felt very similarly to the three of you. It's fine. It's a fine comic book. If Wolverine has to have a comic, I guess this is good. I did like some things about the art, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. Mm-hmm. I liked this kind of reconstitution of Maverick because he's appeared not for a while and so seldom to begin with that you can kind of go anywhere you want, and it feels distinct. It didn't just feel like an older mercenary, but a specific old mercenary who we've maybe met before. So I think it did a nice job with that. And it didn't go to that incredibly expected place with Madripoor stuff. So I'm kind of slightly positive on this. I think it shows to me that Percy's ready to hit a couple of different kind of tonal beats in Wolverine. And that gives me a little bit of optimism to go to the next 10 issues, which maybe I didn't have over the last 2 or 3 issues.
Yeah. Real damning with faint praise vibe going on so far here. But
well, look, there are a few things of note to talk about here, and I want to dig into something that Fariha mentioned and Tyler mentioned. I don't know that Harry got into it specifically, but the art, and very specifically this incredibly specific choice to do 4x4 panel grid, which is a pretty tight grid on a page to begin with, but to not do every one of the 16 panels and to just let the rest of the space be white space. It's really distinct and shocking. I kept kind of double taking. It helps guide your eyes around the page, but do you all think it was ultimately effective, or was it just a gimmick? Tyler, you're probably the biggest. Oh, Fariha, then go first. I'll just say Tyler's generally the biggest Adam Kubert fan. We know that of the 4 of us. Yeah. But Fariha, what did you think since you were seeing white?
No, first of all, if you're going to put that much white space, this issue better be costing half the money of a normal issue.
You're looking for a discount.
Yeah, I'm looking for a discount because you didn't have to do anything. Also, this type of paneling actually works if you're showing a character moving from top story to a down story. like, upstairs from downstairs. See, I know some things about art people. Yeah, it's like it has to be a movement of that. You cannot be showing this in the same step, like, same location, and then do multiple stuff, the close up and the back away. No. You can't do that. So okay, so I was very annoyed by this. I'm like, because I was trying to see if there is a movement, but no, it's all happening in the same level, and it's just all white. I was angry. I was seeing white.
Okay. Initially, I thought Kubert was cheating because there was so much white space. But I think it is intentional. It is meant to signify Maverick coming out of a mind wipe and getting his bearings. So there will be parts of him where he's still trying to get bearings. So it's a blur. It's for him. It's blank for him. So he will be doing things like, you see, the reason why I'm saying this is that the first 2 pages has all these white spaces, and then it says that, okay, I'm good now, I got my bearings, and you open up with the splash page full on with everything. So his mind is clear at that point, and I think it's intentional. And yeah, I know, because when I first read it, I was like, wait, why? What's the intention? What's the purpose of doing this, right? Like, why are there so many random white spaces? You see, so slow that he's like trying to cheat. And it's like, okay, I'm going to draw smaller spaces, smaller panels, and not fill up the entire page. But I think it's intentional. I mean, that's
but the thing is, so then how do you explain the later one? He's going back into his mind washed, because later last 2 pages are also like that.
Yeah. So I think the last 2 pages for me is more like is more of what do you call is more artistically done in a sense, and I mean, I don't have a good explanation for the second last page, but for the last page it's more like a dun 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 type of situation. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, dun dun dun. Yeah, because you can see that, right?
Well, it's the same rhythm. It's not all the other pages are asymmetrical, but that last one is like box, 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 and all the boxes are the same. And like that, I want to hear Harry get into this too, but I have different opinions about almost every time it happens, because the rhythm of how he performs it actually changes, I think, how it comes off. But Harry, what was your take on these?
I thought it was, for the most part, effective. I wouldn't go as far as gimmick. I do agree with Howard that I think it does kind of like explain Maverick's emotional state or kind of point to it. I did really like the ending pages where it is kind of like sparse, but focusing on Maverick's face and positioning in that cafe. And then by the time you get to the final panel where he's made up his mind or whatever that's going to mean, it felt powerful. I was like, okay, this issue ended on a pretty resonant note, which was nice.
Okay, so hold on to that. I'll come back. Like, I have a question about that, but we'll get to that later. But anyway.
Hearing you all talk about it has really opened my eyes to it. I don't think I made all these connections with how it connected with Maverick coming out and all of his, fugue or any of these things. But I think they were executed really differently. So I loved the ones that were isolated panels with a full background behind them, and the panels were popped out. I think we've seen a lot of that on Hawkeye comic books. David Aja definitely used it. Last week, Elena Casagrande used it to brilliant effect on Black Widow. Yeah. I think that's really effective. I like when you just give us a general background, then you pop the same characters in motion on that background repeatedly. The first page to me was really interesting for 2 reasons. One, because it showed kind of levels of action, which gets a little bit to what Fariha was saying. The first row was tight close-ups. The second row was kind of like farther away from them. The third row was like a wide shot. So even though it was all the same place, so it didn't get into Fariha's kind of upstairs, downstairs thing, I think it actually was effective. And I love that they let the word balloons be outside of the panels, almost like this is just a moment in time, but actually a lot of things were said. And it's like, how do you contrast somebody who's saying all these things, but they're just in this one moment of fury? But then the second page kind of fizzled on that. And so did the first page of the return to the white space at the end in the cafe. And then I, similar to Tyler, kind of liked the dun 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 of the final one. So I think, I'm happy to see Kubert take risks. I think some artists get to where they're just doing this stuff out of rote. I think Mike Deodato, who I really do enjoy, tends to just grid everything just to grid it. It's all gridded. It's being griddled. And like sometimes you look at a page and you're like, this was a beautiful page. You could just take away the grid lines. Like you didn't need them. And I don't feel like that here. Yes, I feel like he was using it with purpose, and that's interesting. Well, I wanna take a few of the big plot points one at a time for a moment here. So one of them is kind of Maverick's implicit rejection of Krakoa. Wolverine does eventually get him to visit, but Maverick's like, I'm not looking for all that X-Men nonsense. I'm not looking for another family. A family is only as good as the person who isn't currently stabbing you in the back, is basically Maverick's position. And so even though Krakoa is nice and all, and he kind of relents on it a little bit, he just is like, I don't need to be included in this mutant umbrella. I'm not looking for that right now. It's not what I need in my life. To the point that he might actually be turning against them, which we'll get to as we talk about the CIA. What did you think about this development for Maverick, Fariha, that he's like, I don't need your rah mutant thing. I'm not looking for a family.
So we it's a good thing, because the thing is, like, mutants are not monolith, right? So you have like different shades of mutant, and this is one of the shades. Like we have I'm forgetting, oh my god, he's one of my favorite, how did I forget his name? Marvel's Hellblazer, what's that guy's name?
Pete Wisdom.
Wisdom.
Yeah, Pete Wisdom. There's Pete Wisdom type who is like, yo, get away from me with those flowers. Gross. And then there's the Maverick point of view. It's like, I really don't want to be part of it. But then I was also like, it's all about advertisement, Wolverine. Don't take him to this like pixie flying around place. Take him to where Shadow King is. Take him to where Mr. Sinister is. Then he'll be like, yo, these are my people. I want to be part of that.
Well, that's my question though. So like, why are there pixies? Why are there so many pixies flying around?
I mean, and that to me, that really made me roll my eyes. I'm like, please.
Harry, what did you think about this whole Maverick development? Do you buy it? Do you like it?
I think he's fine. He doesn't really have a great pitch compared to Krakoa, where he's like, hang out with me and my boys, like playing cards and stuff in like our little clubhouse.
On our nuclear submarine or wherever they are.
On our sub. And I'm like, all right, well argued, but there is a magical like Love Island where you can live forever. I feel like that might be better. I mean, that's a very shallow read, but like I mean, yeah, he's like the classic character, like pulling at Wolverine's past. Like, why don't you be a loner? But like, I like a version of that character who's beyond that. So it was not really much of like a, what's up?
No, sorry, go ahead.
It wasn't really much of like a debate for me. I was like, okay, this Dorcas is gonna go hang out on a submarine, and we'll have Wolverine on the fun island.
Yeah, and the thing is, Wolverine also had Jean Grey over here. So why does he have to leave any place? Like, he doesn't need to leave Krakoa.
They're hooking up in a hot tub. Why would you want to go on the sub?
Yeah. Well, and to hook up with who?
Sorry, I interrupted you earlier. Did you have something else to complete your thoughts on this?
Oh, yeah. So my thought was, and this was like coming back to it, is like, is he actually turning, or he is like, trying to help Krakoa because he somehow bought into it a little bit. That's what I was saying. Like, because the thing is like, I don't know if it's like actually a twist like that. I mean, and that's because I don't know anything about this character. So that's why I wanted to ask this question to those who know. It's like, is he the kind of person who would actually go into the X-Deck? Like, yeah, I'm your man, but actually he's trying to help.
I feel like he's the kind of person who would like play all parties against each other. I don't think he's ever on anybody's side fully. Not because he's such an evil character. He's not. He just kind of has been burned so many times by groups of people that he kind of just is like, well, I'm a team of one, ultimately. Yeah. I don't know, Tyler, is that how you think of Maverick?
Yeah, that's my note here too. I said he had been used too many times to trust anyone but himself. And in this case, I think there is a reason for him to mistrust Professor X. He has never been indoctrinated as X-Men. So he has never been an X-Men, but he has been used by governments many, many times. And, for him to say, well, yeah, you have never, I mean, in some ways, they have never invited him to be an X-Men when it was not a government. And then now they want to invite him to Krakoa as, because it's a country now. And so, I think his general mistrust of governments is kind of well placed here. And do remember that he doesn't have mutant powers, and he's willing to give that up. So he's willing to not undergo the crucible to get his powers back.
Right. So the thing is that this week there was like a lot of discussion about death, power, and all of that. Like that's the theme of this week's X in X. But no, but I was that kind of thinking like because of his mistrust of government and stuff. To me, I was like, oh, that's kind of weird that you're handing yourself back to another government, to be used, and why not give it to your so that's why I thought that he's probably not doing it like like he's not fully done actually done enough like I don't know but yeah, I mean that's what, but I was also kind of a little bit confused about what was going on. How did he ended up there in the first place? And I don't know, the whole thing was a little bit confusing, but then I'm like, I don't care enough to go back and check.
Yeah, I feel like I've like fully disassociated from this plot. I remember 2 issues ago was the issue, I think, with him on the cover where I was really angry that he wasn't in the issue. And like Wolverine was tracking down his like goon squad. But then how did he wind up at the auction? I don't remember at all.
Yeah,
he
don't
shot,
ask us.
He shot at Wolverine, right?
But then he like was brainwashed.
Yeah, so probably he was already brainwashed then.
But then
doesn't it feel like we're kind of soft pedaling the brainwashing a little bit in this issue?
Don't
like,
know,
shouldn't that
but
come
that's what
back
I'm
up?
thinking. Yeah.
And but the thing is, like, he also like leading his own team. So when did the team lost him? And when did he lost? What? No.
You can't convince me.
No.
Yeah, the intro text says stunned by an appearance of the brainwashed Maverick. Like it says that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so I mean, look, you don't explain the plot of a summer blockbuster. Like, oh no, how did they manage to climb into this car when they were running from this place? And it's like, no, this is a summer.
Yeah, but that's in a summer blockbuster that gives us Godzilla humping King Kong. Okay, like this is we're real thrills. New York being destroyed for the 10,000th time on film.
I know.
This is not bringing enough of a blockbuster for me to prevent me from asking questions. Okay?
Yeah, this is happening in Madripoor. Come on, blockbuster, please. Blockbuster happens in Europe, okay? Like not in Madripoor.
I want to say real quick before I forget, my favorite part of the issue is that the collector who was kind of like at gunpoint there at claw point, he's like, do you know that I have one of Punisher's guns? Like that's such a special thing. Like the Punisher doesn't have 3,000 guns.
Yeah, like all
in New
the
York.
guns he's discarded. Been out
I love
ammo,
Yeah, it's continuing the theme of like very underwhelming trophies at this concert.
But then also to the collectors, like these collecting group. I mean, I don't know why they will pick each other's junk. I love that they put hyphen in Spider-Man because that's important to me. And I'm like, they actually put it's like Dash Man. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, oh, Spider-Man. I'm like, they put the dash in there. I'm like, that's important.
That is important.
Real nerds put that dash in there.
And I will say, in the collector warehouse, there were some very fun Easter eggs. I don't know if it was just Kubert having fun or if it's meant to be plot significant. I mean, there was a Nimrod in there. I don't know if it was a Nimrod action figure or if it actually was Nimrod, because the scale of it made it look really tiny. But Nimrod's on the cover too.
Might could be really, really high.
Yeah, could just I really had trouble figuring out. But let's pause that for a second. Let's talk about now the other government in here, because we kind of talked about Maverick distrusting Krakoa because it's just another nation. And we talked about how he runs into the willing arms of the United States Central Intelligence Agency and the member of the X desk who was at the auction willing to do something before guns went a-blazing. And she's really looking for a way in right now. What do we think of that development? Like, is it interesting at all? Do you think it's consistent with the memos we've been seeing from the X desk and Marauders? Tyler?
No. I'm super confused by the motivation and actions of X-Desk here, because they were the one who gave Krakoa the information that the Hellfire kids were going to poison the flowers, and then especially this Agent Ramirez, she appears to be a friendly with Storm. They met in the the subway, and with the cuckoo basically like ushering everybody out, and then they were like having a talk. And then over here, it seems like she's like, yeah, let's bring in all the agents. Let's shoot at Wolverine and Maverick because we need mutants. And I was like, what? I mean, I don't understand that. I mean, and I don't understand like how she's. I mean, well, kind of understand, but she's like cratering that the arm of Wolverine all along. So I don't know what she's up to. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, at the end, it kind of seems like, they needed someone to spy on Krakoa, but the part where they start shooting at Maverick and Wolverine, that's the part that I don't understand.
Harry, CIA?
I cannot disagree with what Tyler just said. The motivations don't exactly line up. That being said, because I did forget about the Marauders part, but in this issue, I don't know why, I do find it more interesting that the CIA is the antagonist rather than vampires or, like another government, like the stuff in X-Force with Quentin Quire, what have you. Like that all is more fantastical, which is great for comics. But like I do like that the factional fighting is just the American CIA, and it's like a nice level, like kind of shady and interesting. That actually worked for me. I'm genuinely interested to see where it goes.
Fariha?
So I think like it's very much US, the way they are. They will sign a treaty with a country and then send CIA after them. Like, so it kind of falls in. But I'm also kind of thinking between the time when she said, like, hey, she warned Storm about the thing, how many times she has seen Quentin Quire die and come back? Like, have she seen that? And then that's why she's probably now, these mofos are coming back from death.
Shoot a clip into him. It's going to be fine. We're going to see him later.
So it's like, that's one of the reasons she's probably like, I don't know why she now feels like she needs to go into Krakoa and something is really not right. Because I think we talked about it over the chat. I'm like, too many people knows about Resurrection for it to stay hidden for too long, and that shoe has to drop, that everyone figures out that mutants are actually coming back. Like one of the Avengers one of these days will find out when they're fighting and one of them dies.
I didn't think it was such a big secret, honestly. I don't know, maybe it's just I'm reading this all really differently than the rest of you. When you said that in chat, I was like, is it a secret? I don't know if it is.
It's a secret.
I feel that, and I think not only maybe that coming back is not a secret because everyone keeps coming back. How they're coming back is probably a secret, like how they're coming back so fast. Maybe something that she's picking up on, and maybe that's why she needs to. I don't know, and maybe just nothing. It's just like CIA, or maybe she's gonna CIA.
I mean, the other thing is also like maybe she's just trying to prove to her boss that she was not bought, because I think in one of those memos, her mom or something actually got the flower,
benefited from the drugs. Yeah.
Right. So maybe she was just trying to prove to her boss that, like, I'm still with the CIA. I'm impartial. So I can shoot at Wolverine, who was known to have a healing factor. So let's shoot at him. Doesn't matter. He won't die.
Right, but the thing is, the girl got higher budget now because she was crying about budget, all of Marauders, but now she has people gun blazing. Yeah. I'm like, oh girl, you got some budget there.
You got the money.
Well, let's return to Resurrection for a second to close this out. Many of us, assumed that spare claw of Wolverine was of Old Man Logan's because he did at some point get a hand lopped off. Wolverine seems to really think that it's his. I would assume that he would know if it was an old hand. So I think that that plot has been shut down. And we end, on a data page where Wolverine very tersely, because I imagine Wolverine typing with, his one claw at a time on a keyboard, very tersely writes to X Factor and is like, I think that you've got to look into my lost lives because we've got a missing Wolverine accounted for. This was kind of shocking to me because I didn't feel like it was built in. Like, do you feel like it's supposed to tie in with the vampire hypnosis thing? Is this a new plot? Like, I guess my question to the three of you is, do you think this is supposed to evoke some specific past plot, or is this just pure new information? Tyler?
I think the latter.
Oh, Harry, why do you think the latter?
I don't know. Well, my memory's mush, but I can't remember a place where he died and then there was any kind of indication that it was taken. Tyler, correct me. What was the time he died?
Hotspots. When he was when he go slice off the head, and
he went into the sun.
He burned into a crisp with the face of God.
I'm not saying that that's where they got his hand. I'm just saying that he has only been resurrected once on panel in the book. So
that's my thing.
As we have seen in X-Force with Quentin Quire, they have been on many missions that were not documented in any issues. So he could have died multiple times. Though he did fall into a volcano and still managed to climb up alive. So I don't know if like, you know, this is something that was established. I mean, I feel like it's something that is going to play a part maybe in future issues.
And that's interesting. Like a book about, you know, the random detritus of all of your destroyed past lives kind of being left over. Like that is an interesting plot. I would love for that to be the book for a little while.
That's every Wolverine series ever.
Okay, well, you know what?
Like,
You're correct.
It's like, over. But the thing is, to me, though, I was actually thinking, like, I was shocked that I'm like, he's getting resurrected? Why we're wasting eggs after him? Like, you know, the guy can come back. But then to that point, though, I was actually, even though he kind of went into the sun or everything, in my head, I feel like there's another Wolverine running around because he can come back from anything. Because isn't that the whole thing? Like, you have to mush him up, take him, like, you know, drown him, take his hand, and then like take his head, and then he's still gonna come back. There's no way to stop him.
He's not a vampire.
No, but he
fell
can
to
come
a
back.
star.
No, but he can come back from a single drop of blood, like some weird nonsense that he can come back from. So I'm like, is there another Wolverine running around? Like the one that went to the sun. And, you know, I was kind of thinking about the Old Guard, the movie, like where it's like they drowned this one of the immortal and she just keeps on coming back and getting drowned, coming back and getting drowned. But is that happening to him? Anyway, I don't know why I spend so much time thinking about Wolverine, even though I don't care for him. But anyway.
Well, I think actually this teases out the thing that to me is the most interesting about it. It's not, ooh, where did the hand come from? Like, I don't really care. I think it just is an interesting question that ties back into the central Krakoan theme, into X Factor, of like, how sure are we that Wolverine ever died in these lost lives, right? Throwing him into the sun, pretty good, but he was almost thrown into the sun with Jean at one point and comes back from barely anything. Now he had the Phoenix helping him then, but like, who's to say? And so really, I think a fun plot that we haven't fully explored yet in any of the titles is what happens when X Factor is wrong. And there is a copy, except for Percy seems to be writing this same plot already for Quentin Quire in X-Force. So I'm kind of just like, in a vacuum, it's interesting. In the scope of the X line right now, even this author himself is doing it better in another book, but maybe it's going to all thematically tie together. So I don't want to judge too harshly. I think this was executed decently. It asked some questions, and that's great. But here's the thought I want to leave us with, and I don't know, we have to do a full round with this. I'm interested to see what people comment on this, on the discussion on this episode, is this what Wolverine's title should be about? Like, what do you want? If you're somebody who loves to buy a Wolverine title, some people do. There's a reason it's been an almost continuous publication other than from his death in 2014 to present. What do you want from it? Do you want mutant nonsense? Do you want him farther from the mutant nonsense? Do you want him fighting governments as a secret agent? Do you want him fighting giant monsters? What makes a good Wolverine book? So if we could just go around real quick reactions for you. You've actually read a lot of Wolverine. More at one point, probably more Wolverine than you had of X-Men, although that's changed now. What's a good Wolverine book thematically?
So I know you're going to hate it. Wolverine and the X-Men. Where Wolverine teaches kids how to be a proper mutant, how to fight, and then that's one of the reasons I'm like, put him in New Mutants.
Well, that's like the same thing. That's why I liked Superman when he had a kid, and everybody's like, no, that was stupid, boring Superman. I'm like, maybe for you, but for me, I finally found a way to like Superman, and I hadn't for the whole rest of my natural life. And giving him a kid, just not just because I'm a dad, but because like I understood something interesting about Superman in that moment that I didn't before. So maybe Wolverine as the old guard, quote unquote, works better. Harry, what makes a Wolverine book buyable for you?
Well, Fariha stole mine. I mean, my first Wolverine comics were Jason Aaron's. You know, I like that progression of the loner becoming the person more enmeshed with the community and being more at peace with that, which I'm aware is like an ending to that character. So I get why you would, in my eyes, regress to this kind of thing where he's not comfortable being in this bigger society, in this bigger group, and is worried about that. So I don't know what the right move is here, but I'm pretty sure it's not this. I get the need to want to have a more classic kind of Wolverine. I understand the impulse for that, but especially compared to all the much fresher feeling X books right now, this is just like the sore thumb book. I think I think just embracing more the fact that like he's part of a community now would pay off more rather than just being like, oh, I'm not sure about this. Like every friggin' issue he talks to people in their backyards at 11 o'clock at night. I'm still not over that.
Tyler, are you going to unite against me by also saying you like Jason Aaron's take on Wolverine? Or are you going to say that some other aspect of Wolverine is your favorite?
I'm not sure. Okay.
It's a valid answer to say you don't like Wolverine. I mean, that, you know.
The thing is this. When you talk about Wolverine and the X-Men, it is a team book. It is not a Wolverine book. That's how I look at it. And in my opinion, Wolverine should never have a solo series. Like,
yeah, exactly.
What is the point?
Exactly.
And not only do we have one Wolverine series now, we also have Wolverine Black, White, and Blood. And like, you know, to me, it's like, okay, if we have a reason for putting Wolverine on a solo adventure, do it. But I don't need a second X-Force book that does X-Force things poorly. Like, why? I mean, it doesn't make sense.
That's exactly where I am. And it's interesting because I have a very different favorite take on Wolverine than the rest of you. I like Wolverine like at the beginning of his 2003 series by Greg Rucka, which I think at first was under like a Mature or Max imprint, where he's just like bumming around. He's like riding a motorcycle. He's in border towns, you know. I love that. I liked a ton of the anthology book Savage Wolverine in 2013 from Marvel Now. And thinking back to like old Wolverine, I love the beginning of Hama Silvestri Wolverine, which is really while the X-Men didn't even fully exist. And he's kind of just like tying up loose ends. I like that. To me, a Wolverine solo title should be Wolverine tying up a bunch of loose ends. Now, I'll put a caveat on that. That's when Wolverine is so oppressively used in other titles that you almost need that gasp of fresh air of him doing something differently. He's ultimately not really being all that overused right now in the X-Men titles. No. So I can forgive this being a little bit closer to X-Men, but if you're asking me why I show up for Wolverine solo book, I want to see him out on the frontier of something. And then maybe it's fun when one X-Men drops by, you know, like Storm drops in because he's fighting elephant poachers and you're like, ooh, Storm. Like that's what makes me excited about Wolverine comics. So we'd love to hear from you. What actually excites you about a Wolverine comic? Does this Wolverine comic excite you? That is a perfectly valid opinion to have, and we would welcome hearing about why. Okay, that's all we have to say about Wolverine number 10. Thank you so much for being with us for this discussion. If you're looking for discussions of other books out this week, the 24th of February from Marvel Comics and its X-Men line, look elsewhere on the channel. And until next time, we are so happy to get together and talk about these things because even though we kind of all damn this with faint praise in Harry's words, I think we found some interesting different things to talk about. And why is that, Fariha?
X-Men is better when it's read together.
That's right.
Even Wolverine titles.
So from all of us, Tyler, Harry, and Fariha, to you, we're so happy to get to read this together with you, and we look forward to seeing you again here on This Week in X.
Bye.